The boy is playing on his computer and says he is trying for the third time to survive a zombie apocalypse. He hopes to get a strong weapon and finds a bat. He feels confident because guns attract too many zombies and bullets are limited. If it were a real apocalypse, he would always choose a bat. Suddenly, something happens on the screen. The boy, acting silly, tries a stunt on his chair. Bat, he falls and hits his head. At the same time, a friend named Hyung Nim asks if he liked that. Another friend, only one, points out that his character just died. The boy apologizes to the live stream, but he explains that it is fine because he reached a checkpoint and gained a new item. Only one then asks if he is having fun, since he is the only person watching. The streamer Chinsu falls silent for a moment. He admits he can keep streaming only because this one person is always there. Only one says he chooses him. This confuses but pleases Chinsu. The room suddenly begins to shake. An explosion follows, and Chinsu runs to the window. Outside, the city is burning and people are running. He tries to ask the live stream if anyone else noticed, but his computer shuts off and will not turn back on. Confused, he goes outside. On the street, a woman runs past him. He calls to her, but she only looks at him briefly and keeps running. Suddenly, messages appear in front of his eyes. Some mock him, calling him silly, and others wonder why anyone would choose him. Shocked, he asks why there is a chat window in front of him. The stream mocks him further, imitating his words. Some warn that something is coming. When he looks, a zombie appears. The chat says he will die since he is a bad player. The zombie lunges, but he kicks it away and escapes. Running back to his apartment, he tries to unlock the door code, but the zombie smashes through the glass. Its bloody face terrifies him as he flees upstairs. He reaches the 7th floor, but the zombie keeps chasing. At the roof door, he finds it locked. The chat tells him to push harder. He finally breaks it open. He blocks it with his body as the zombie pounds on it. On the roof, he wonders why zombies are real and why a game chat is following him. Still, his goal is clear. He must fight back. He searches for a weapon. Suddenly, the building's owner, a chubby man, appears. Chensu runs, but he trips and falls as the zombie closes in. Someone in the chat points out a supply chest. Struggling, he kicks the zombie back. Then he dodges so that the creature falls from the roof. The chat wonders if it was luck or skill. Exhausted, he notices more zombies breaking the door. He finds the chest and opens it. Then he discovers a shining, legendary bat. The chat calls it the Excalibur of the Apocalypse. As the zombies charge, Chinsu smiles and says that, for him, the end of the world is only a game. He grips the bat and runs forward. He swings the bat at the first zombie, but misses completely. Surrounded, he shakes the bat and yells for them to back off. The chat calls him a clown. The zombies are too close, making it hard to swing. One attacks from behind, forcing him to dodge. He drops the bat and dives to the floor to avoid being bitten. The zombies close in, but he quickly breaks the bat, and he pierces the zombie with the broken piece of it. The chat is impressed by his quick movements. Back in his room, viewers admit he did better than expected. Chinsu checks his computer and phone, but both are dead. He tells the chat he will go to his parents' house. Jumping on his bike, he ignores their comments and focuses on his family. While riding, something jumps in front of him. He crashes and the chat asks if it was a tongue. Confused, he looks around. They tell him it is a monstrous frog. The giant frog lashes its tongue, but he dodges. Someone in the chat mentions a ruler, giving him an idea. He runs into a tunnel, knowing the frog's tongue cannot hit around sharp curves. He pulls out a Molotov and challenges the frog. The first bottle fails. He throws another at its face, but it still survives. Realizing its weakness must be inside, he risks everything. When the frog attacks again, he throws the last Molotov into its mouth. The creature burns from within, thrashes in pain, and collapses. The chat praises his bravery. He wonders why they treat his life like a game, but he decides not to care. He declares he will not die like a fool. Suddenly, he receives an achievement and a new ability called Save Record, which lets him keep parts of skills as permanent attributes. He also gets aggro, which makes him stronger when surrounded. Closing the panel, he sets out to find his family. His bike is destroyed, so he walks. At home, he finds the house damaged, as if something huge had bitten it. Inside, he calls for his parents, but they are gone. Then he remembers his parents always leave notes. In his room, he finds a message from his father. It says they evacuated with soldiers from Division 7.5 and would see him soon. At least now he has a clue about where his parents went. The chat mocks him for being abandoned. He feels uneasy because the message does not sound like his father's usual notes. Still, he thinks this might be the start of his first main quest. He checks the cupboard and finds canned sardines. While eating, the chat criticizes him for being too relaxed. He replies that he must eat before making plans. Suddenly, he hears sounds in the house. He follows them and sees a zombie crawling out the window. He smashes its hand and triggers his aggro skill. He remembers the skill gives him extra strength for each enemy. Testing it, he opens another door where a zombie is breaking in. He smashes it too. Soon he fights more, defeating one after another until his strength grows noticeably. From the kitchen, another sound comes. He hurries there and finds a man hiding under the table. The man says he is a chef and offers to cook. The chat warns that letting a stranger cook in his house is risky. Jinsu explains he is hungry, and if the man tries anything, he will deal with it. The meal restores his energy. The chef introduces himself as Minjiu from Myeonseoro restaurant. Jinsu thanks him but says he must leave soon to find his father. Minjiu suggests going to the elementary school, which has become an emergency shelter. Jinsu thinks it could be a good place for information. They prepare to leave, planning to use a bike in the garage. But suddenly, Minjiu screams. Outside, a giant titan-like zombie is holding him. The chat identifies it as the one that damaged Jinsu's house. He flees on a bike while the creature chases him. The monster is fast. A timer appears, giving him 10 minutes. He spots another bike and leaps for it, speeding away just in time. The chat is impressed. He tells them he will not go down without a fight. Meanwhile, at the school, soldiers are directing people inside. Some argue about whether to wait longer. A man wearing a white bandana urges his friend to enter. Then they hear a motorcycle roar. It is Jinsu carrying something. The crowd turns startled as he arrives. Everyone stares at what he is carrying on his bike. He only smiles, and the chat comments that he seems to enjoy being the center of attention. A man nearby recognizes the bike as Minjiu's and asks how he is doing, and the boy answers dryly that Minjiu is dead. The man, confused, asks for more explanation, but the boy replies that there is nothing else to explain and asks who the leader is. A policeman named Seojun steps forward, saying he is in charge. The boy introduces himself, and Seojun asks if he really brought back part of the monster. The boy is surprised that Seojun already knows about it. Seojun explains that many people died because of that creature and asks what happened. The boy says he killed it. Everyone is shocked because they believed it was impossible to kill such a monster. Earlier, while still on the bike, the boy had asked the chat if they wanted to bet that he would survive. They asked what he would risk, and he answered that the bet was his own life. The monster had been destroying buildings and never seemed to get tired. The boy said that if he lived, the chat would owe him a favor. The viewers complained that they had nothing to gain and that he would fail anyway. He told them if he lost, he would simply die. Amused by his reckless attitude, they agreed. Only one confirmed the deal, and the boy smiled, speeding into the tunnel with the monster chasing at 100 miles per hour. Back at the shelter, the boy tells Seojun he will explain more later, and that he is also searching for a safe place. Seojun insists they check him for infection first, but the townspeople say he is a hero and should be allowed inside. After the check, he is cleared. As he is about to leave, someone stops him again, asking if Minjiu truly died. The boy says he already explained and asks if the man knew him. The man replies that Minjiu had worked at his restaurant. The boy explains they had been together and had a plan, but the monster destroyed it. He adds that Minjiu's tofu soup was something unforgettable. The chat mocks him for making Minjiu cook for him, only to act noble afterward. The restaurant owner is left speechless. The boy then leaves. As he approaches the school, he steps over a blue line. A message appears, telling him he is leaving the tutorial and will now have access to the information panel to help him survive. What shocks him most is the word tutorial. More messages follow, saying the real challenge is only beginning. He rushes into a room and calls for only one, saying he cannot handle this much longer without knowing the truth. He reminds him of their bet and demands an explanation. Only one asks what he wants to talk about. The boy replies that he wants to understand what is happening. The rest of the chat grows angry, asking if he has received any explanations. He admits he has not. They are surprised he is still alive and ask how he seems to know so much. He answers, confused, that it must be his instincts as a streamer. The chat finds this detail interesting, and someone mentions that if he wins the game, he will have the power to rebuild the world however he wants. The boy is stunned, and only one confirms it, explaining that everything in this world is real, but a few details were changed. He is the only player, and this group prefers to follow only one person at a time. Everyone else is more like an NPC, while he alone is the protagonist. Only one advises him not to think too much about the reality of it, but to just treat them as viewers and keep playing to win. Overwhelmed, the boy wonders if only one is some kind of god. He even asks it directly, but only one dismisses the question as foolish. Only one says he will give just one hint. They enjoy a good show, so the boy should go all out and entertain them. The boy mutters that it is a strange mission for someone who never leaves his house, but then remembers the information panel. He opens it and sees his first mission: protect the police chief. If the chief dies that night, the city will collapse. Outside, he watches people preparing supplies. The police announce that meals will be given to everyone, and the courtyard fills with people. The boy knows that among the 100 or so people gathered, at least one is a danger to the police chief. When a man calls to him, he ignores it and instead asks to see Chief Sujin. The man looks nervous and avoids answering. The chat points out that this feels suspicious. The boy insists on seeing the chief. The man hesitates, then asks if the boy really killed the monster. When the boy confirms, the man admits the truth. The chief went missing during a patrol. They were looking for skilled people like him to help. The boy asks why no one is searching for the chief. The man explains they lack manpower to both guard the shelter and search. The boy requests to look inside the chief's office. Sweating, the man agrees. Inside, the boy searches for clues. The chat helps, but nothing turns up until he notices a map with a location marked on it. He realizes it is not far. Suddenly, someone enters, saying he heard the boy is looking for the chief. The man introduces himself as Kyungho and shakes his hand, pressing hard as if testing him. The chat mocks the boy for being weak, while he wonders why Kyungho is doing this. Before anything more can happen, screams ring out. Everyone rushes outside. Infected have appeared among the crowd. Panic spreads as people are bitten, and the infection spreads quickly. The boy wonders how this happened, while the chat warns that chaos is coming. He grabs his hammer and runs to help, shouting for the police to act. But the police cannot fire without hitting civilians. The boy smashes one infected, while others join in the fight. A man with a frying pan jumps in, striking zombies alongside him. The police eventually manage to help too, but people are shouting to open the gates and flee. The boy suspects someone deliberately let an infected inside. He tells the chat that the only one with authority to do that would be a policeman who has lost his mind. For now, though, he decides he cannot deal with this and must focus on finding the chief. He tells the man to keep an eye on the police and says this is repayment for Minju's kindness. The man looks confused, but the boy runs off before explaining. He returns to his bike and tells the chat that staying at the shelter would only interfere with his plans. He is convinced the marked place on the map hides something important. Later, he reaches a container in the forest. Looking through the windows, he sees no one inside, but the ground is covered in footprints. He wonders if zombies made them. He asks the chat when he will receive a new supply chest. They joke that he must be playing on hard mode. He denies this, saying it is already too hard and he needs help. Someone jokes that supplies are paid content. He checks the bottom of the chat and finds a $sign. When he clicks it, he sees donations are disabled. The chat urges him to activate it. He does, unlocking monetization. Immediately, only one sends him 1 gen, while others send 2 more gen each. Furious, he realizes they had hidden this just to make the game harder for him. He enters the container, which looks like an ordinary house. The chat asks if he is angry, but he says he holds no grudges, though he knows they are keeping secrets. He wonders why the map led him here. Suddenly, zombies appear at the windows. His aggro skill activates, confirming the footprints belong to zombies. The chat laughs, calling them his friends, but his aggro count keeps rising. He kicks one zombie away, then another, until his strength grows to more than double. Just then, he hears a horn. A car comes at him and he dodges. Inside is Kyungho, the same man who lured zombies to the school. The boy calls him out, while Kyungho fumes, wondering how this kid can dodge so easily and even fight so many zombies alone. Kyungho tries to run him down, but the boy smashes the window with boosted strength. Kyungho grabs a gun and tries to fire, but the boy dodges again. Kyungho drives off, shocked to see the boy chasing him on foot even though the car is going 80 miles per hour. Furious, Kyungho presses a hidden button. Containers open, releasing a horde of zombies. The chat declares he is doomed, but his aggro is already at 40, making his strength 5 times greater. He says he will finish this in 2 minutes. He charges, cutting through zombies quickly. Still, the swarm is massive. He notices Kyungho parked nearby and decides to deal with him first. Breaking into the car, he demands to know where the police chief is. Kyungho tries to reach for a weapon, but the boy stops him. The chat warns him to watch the man's left hand, and he blocks that too. Kyungho asks who he is, and the boy says he is loved by his fans. With one kick, he takes control of the car. Kyungho is left unconscious. Finding a pair of handcuffs, the boy locks him up, amused by the chat's suggestion that he might earn money for it. Then he drives through the zombies, mowing them down. As he pushes forward, he remembers the message from earlier. Chief Mayang was at the food school. There was no reason for him to come here at all. Suddenly, a teddy bear waddles across the road. He brakes but hits it, sending it spinning across the asphalt. The chat laughs, but then the bear rises to its feet. He stands there confused, while a small creature shaped like a teddy bear watches him. It suddenly runs. He asks what it is, and only one explains that it is the only bear, a guide that leads directly to a reward chest. He notices Kyungho starting to wake up. The chat wants him to decide whether to follow the bear or deal with Kyungho. He picks up a taser and asks the chat to vote. Type 1 to put Kyungho back to sleep, Type 2 to use the taser. Everyone types 1, but he chooses 2 and shocks Kyungho into unconsciousness. He gets out of the car and follows the bear through the woods until he reaches a reward chest. To open it, he has to spend 5 zen. The icon shows a shield, so it is probably not a weapon. The chat tells him to stop wasting time. He ignores them, opens the chest, and receives a powerful flashlight. He feels let down and calls the flashlight a waste, but he pockets it anyway and heads back toward the school. At the school, people complain that only an incompetent person would let an infected person slip inside. He says they should relax because he was there the whole time and tells everyone to keep the citizens calm. Someone calls him over and says there is a problem. In a corner, a group whispers about relocating the police. He suspects the bad kid is involved again. He says it is fine, he will handle the police chief because they are all in this together. What he does not know is that Gango is listening from the stairs. Those men really are plotting something. Soon, another officer finds Kyungho's jeep at the construction annex. Inside, they discover Kyungho unconscious and handcuffed. Gango starts running, convinced the boy was right, and rushes to tell him. But suddenly, someone thrusts a hand out in front of his face. It is the boy, who says he has been looking for him. The boy asks what he found, and Gango blurts out that the police chief is in the basement and guards are posted at the door. The scene shifts to the basement door. The boy listens to the guards talking. In the chat, someone jokes that he should earn some zen if he kicks in the door. He opens the door and kicks one guard in the back, dropping him. The other reaches for a gun, but the boy blocks his hand, pins him, and asks if he knows who he is. He says he stands for the humanity that the guard lost. The guard fires several shots, then clicks an empty chamber. The boy smiles and asks if that was the last bullet, then smashes him in the face for Minju, hits his chin for the police, and finishes with a final blow for everything he has endured. He finds the police chief unconscious and demands the keys. The guard tries to grab a taser from behind, but the boy zaps him with an identical taser and shoves him aside, telling him to greet Kyungho. The chat urges him to finish the man, but he says more enemies are coming and it is not over. Another guard rushes in, but the boy shoots him in the head. The chat praises his calm and efficiency. He mutters that the man was too noisy, collects another batch of zen, and feels pleased. A voice from behind asks if he actually killed a police officer. He turns, says it is time to end this, and advances. He asks the man how he wants to die and offers choices: arm, leg, chest, or the last option. He notes how scared the man looks for someone who just tried to shoot him. Another zen arrives in the chat as the man screams, "It seems finished." The chat laughs and teases him about the scene. He brushes it off. Outside, people turn and stare. He appears with the real police chief. He tells the officers that the traitors are tied up in the basement. The others rush off to confirm, and he finally feels the crisis is under control. He checks his panel, which warns that staying too long in one place is dangerous. The next morning, after eating in one of the cabins, he reopens the panel and still finds the warning strange. He asks the chat how long is too long, but they avoid the question. The chief approaches and asks why he is leaving already. The boy asks if there is a problem. The chief offers supplies because the boy helped so many people. The boy recalls asking whether the chief would really just expel the traitors, given they tried to kill him. The chief admits it is hard to execute former comrades. The boy says not to worry, he will take care of it. Cut to the road, he is driving fast with the two traitors tied up in the back. Officers chase and beg him to stop, but he says he is not in the mood. The chat says he is simply fixing things. One officer gets bitten. He pushes close to 80 miles per hour, then stops. He points out that an unfortunate accident has happened. Back in the present, the chief thanks him again. The boy says he will not refuse extra supplies. The chief agrees and even offers a car, asking him not to leave without saying goodbye. He sits in the car, fiddling with the flashlight, still unsure of its use. The chat tells him to relax and wait. He drifts off. He wakes shivering with cold. The air conditioning is off, but his breath fogs. In the rearview mirror, a cloaked, skeletal creature approaches. The chat warns that it has finally arrived. He floors the gas, drifts, and tries to escape. Police shout for him to wait, but he shoots past them. He scolds the chat for laughing, instead of warning him earlier. He glances again, and the creature is gone. He does not see it appear beside his window. The door window shatters. He accelerates to gain distance. The chat says he must move to another region, or he cannot escape. The monster suddenly reappears in front of him. He crashes into a pillar. The airbag explodes, but he is shaken and hurt. The creature advances. He stumbles out, aims, and fires, but the bullets do nothing and the monster does not die. He runs. Exhausted in a corridor, he hears the chat mutter that he might die today. The creature appears again and lunges. He flicks on the flashlight. The creature recoils and shields itself. Gamer instincts kick in. This item must have a purpose. He uses the opening to leap out a window. He lands on a bicycle and immediately wipes out because the tire is flat. He gouges his knee. The monster comes again. He throws the flashlight and runs, firing more shots to slow it. Then he notices a faint line on the ground. He realizes it marks the monster's boundary. He says this is the last shot. The creature hits the line and disintegrates. He collapses, barely conscious. Something nearby catches his eye. A distant light flickers on and off, again and again. The chat warns it is a trap. He says it looks like Morse code, and he has to check. He dashes forward and orders the person to stop. A boy reveals himself. His name is Manhwa. He raises his hands, begs not to be shot, and says he is not a threat. The protagonist asks if he is a police officer, and the chat jokes that they have finally found someone more foolish than him as he demands the flashlight, but Minchial hesitates. The protagonist levels his gun. Minchial gives up the light. The protagonist also asks for the backpack. Minchial pleads that it is all the food he has, and that without it he will die. Eventually, everything is on the ground, and the protagonist notes they carry almost the same things. Minchial is near tears. The protagonist roughly orders him to strip down to his clothes for a search. Later, Minchial dresses again and begs to be believed. The protagonist asks how a kid like him survived without weapons. He wonders if Minchial works with others as bait. He tells the chat to watch the kid's face and turns away, saying they will split up. Minchial blurts out that he suffered to reach this place, that all his friends are dead, and that he survived only because he was a coward. The chat says he sounds honest. The protagonist asks if it is true, and Minchial nods. The protagonist accepts it and says to follow, adding that he cannot ignore a junior who needs help. Elsewhere, the protagonist sprints from a big-mouthed frog and shouts for help. Minchial ignores him and tells the protagonist to turn left. The monster stumbles and crashes into a building. Minchial says they will use the same trick near a stream. The protagonist grins and tells Minchial to worry about himself. They move along the edge of an excavated area. The monster tries to copy them, slips, and falls. Ahead, a giant tongue sweeps across their path. The protagonist tells Minchial to duck on his signal. They both drop as the tongue whips past. The monster behind them gets a mouthful. The frog becomes angry and hauls the other creature with its tongue. While the two monsters fight, the protagonist and Minchial run. The protagonist smiles, finally seeing how this kid stayed alive. Later, they ride a tandem bicycle. The protagonist pants and complains, and Minchial tells him to keep pedaling. They are close to a place rich in supplies. Minchial asks about Division 7.5, saying he found only a note that his friends went with that division. The protagonist has heard of it but knows little. He grows thoughtful because that is the same division that took his father. They reach a building. A car nearly hits them. The protagonist steps off the bike and mutters that nothing is ever easy. He knocks on the window. The chat asks if it is an infected person. He sees a human, Zhou Yangjin. He drags him out and searches the car, hopping for a rifle, but finds nothing useful. Zhou Yangjin pulls a knife. The protagonist kicks him and takes the blade. Zhou Yangjin apologizes and says the protagonist can take whatever he wants. The protagonist studies him and says he looks like a deserter. Zhou Yangjin says no, that everyone in his base is dead. Minchial asks if he is really a soldier. The protagonist says it is obvious, then notices something on Zhou Yangjin's neck. He yanks off a dog tag, holds it up, and orders Zhou Yangjin to recite his service number. Zhou Yangjin starts sweating and slowly recites his service number. The protagonist says it sounds correct but still feels unsure. He then asks if Zhou Yangjin knows anything about Division 7.5, but Zhou Yangjin says no and claims he has never heard of it. Minchial warns that staying here is dangerous. The protagonist gets into the car and tells them to hop the wire fence. He looks at Zhou Yangjin and calls him useless, then wonders aloud if they should bring him. Zhou Yangjin begs to come along, saying his legs are broken and he cannot survive alone. The protagonist recalls that Zhou Yangjin earlier asked to be left alone. Zhou Yangjin explains he thought they would hurt him. The chat says the protagonist would never save anyone, but he answers that this is unfair. He tells Minchial to open the gate and says Minchial can bring Zhou Yangjin if he wants. Minchial agrees. They drive toward a building. Seeing 4 cars in the lot, the protagonist wonders why the gate had been shut. He tells everyone to be careful because someone might still be inside. They carry Zhou Yangjin to the infirmary. The protagonist says he will scout around. Minchial, acting like a frightened child, begs not to be left alone. The protagonist reassures him, but goes upstairs anyway, asking the chat what they think about leaving the kid behind. Opinions are split, with one viewer saying the kid seems genuine. He hears a voice about a safe place. He opens a door and finds a row of powered communicators. A message repeats that Division 7.5 is heading to Jew Island. At last, a clue. He opens his information panel. It instructs him to escape the city through the train station. He runs back, calling for Minchial, but he finds only Zhou Yangjin in the room. He asks where the kid is. Zhou Yangjin says Minchial heard noises and went to check. Angry, the protagonist demands to know why he let the kid go alone, then rushes out. He realizes he needs a taxi key to leave. Searching papers, he notices the lights were switched off even though there is power, which is suspicious. A scream rings out. He runs and finds Zhou Yangjin on the floor. Zhou Yangjin asks for help and says he heard sounds from the basement. Footsteps thump on the stairs. A man appears, using Minchial as a hostage. Minchial yells for the protagonist to run, but he refuses. The protagonist raises a knife and demands Minchial be released. The sweating man claims the kid is a thief who broke into his company. He points at both of them and calls them thieves, adding that there are no drivers left now. The protagonist understands why he could not find any keys. Zhou Yangjin trembles. The protagonist blames the company owner for sending out his taxi drivers. He tries to explain that he is not a thief. Thinking fast, he claims he is actually a new taxi driver here to help, and though the chat is confused, the protagonist leans in, praising his own skills and saying he wants to help during the crisis. The company owner, already unhinged, says they do need more drivers and asks for a resume. Caught off guard, the protagonist hesitates. The man insists he needs a resume for any interview. The protagonist says he already brought one and that it is in the office. He tells Zhou Yangjin to fetch it. Zhou Yangjin returns with a sheet he says is the closest match. The owner stares at it. The protagonist calls for Minchial to move, shoulder bumps the owner, and lunges. He snatches Zhou Yangjin's crutch and clubs the owner. He orders Minchial to bind the man's legs and arms. They find the key and sprint to a car, telling Jo Yongjin to drive. The owner screams after them. The protagonist says to head for the train station. Then they see crowds running, each with a giant eye on the back, chased by a colossal spider-like creature. He tells Jo Yongjin that if they follow his lead, he will get them out. Jo Yongjin has no idea what the monster is. It charges and he floors the accelerator. He swings the car around, but there is no clear way out. In the chaos, the owner wriggles free and curses them. Jinsu orders Jo Yongjin to turn and head back toward the main entrance. The owner screams for his taxi, then sees it rolling by with the monster in pursuit. They drift past the creature. It slams into a building. They race down the street. Jo Yongjin asks if the protagonist really used the man as bait. Exhausted, the protagonist says the owner turned out to be a great company leader after all. Minchial mutters that it was the best choice for everyone's survival. Ahead, a blue line crosses the road. As they pass it, a checkpoint registers. Now the chat can post missions, with harder ones paying better rewards. The viewers celebrate and say the big spender who always maxes out cards will shine. Jinsu asks if Minchial can see the chat, and they answer that he cannot hear or see them when the protagonist talks to the stream. He checks the system but sees no functions yet and asks what that means. The big spender donates 1 zen and says he will understand soon. Jinsu reaches a hand out, eager, when heavy footsteps thud behind them. The creature is back. He begs Jo Yongjin to go faster. Jo Yongjin says they are already at top speed, but the monster gains on them. Jinsu wonders if it is faster in a straight line and asks Minchial for another route, but Minchial has none. He tells Minchial to think. Minchial suggests climbing the mountain road to the left. Jo Yongjin warns it is slower. Jinsu insists they will die otherwise, and as they climb, the gap grows. Jo Yongjin warns of a sharp curve ahead. Jinsu asks Minchial, and Minchial says to keep going because the monster cannot stop its momentum. Jinsu begs the chat for a mission with a reward. Viewers tell him he is doomed. Panic builds until the big spender posts a mission, roll down the taxi window and taunt the creature. The reward is a buff that keeps the car on track for 5 seconds. He immediately rolls the window down and hurls insults, calling the monster ugly and daring it to kill him. The mission completes. The buff applies. They hit the curve. Thanks to the buff, the car clings to the road while the creature sails off the edge. It is not only a curve but a cliff. Despite the warning sign, the road engineers deserve praise. Jo Yongjin cannot believe they did not go over even after being bumped. Minchial slumps spent. Jinsu thanks the big spender, who replies that the boy now owes him. Sometime later, the protagonist says the radio message made him expect more people. Strangely, the train station is empty. They hide the car and continue on foot. Jo Yongjin brings up zombies. Jinsu says he will handle them. Minchial asks if he is sure. He says yes, then shouts to draw enemies. 3 monsters turn toward him. His aggro rises, and his strength climbs to about 1.4 times normal. He cuts down the creatures with ease, though one sneaks up behind him. He pivots and drops it. The chat praises his growth. He tells them to stop with the corny praise, though he feels faster and stronger. They keep moving until they see a man calling for someone named Jiang Changguk. Jinsu knows this is the mayor's name and wonders if the man works for him. He asks the chat whether he should save the man. The big spender says yes, even though most say no. Jinsu decides to help. A zombie is about to kill the man when it suddenly collapses, dead. Sobbing, the man says the mayor abandoned him to die. The man says they should have gone to another station because monsters swarmed this one, but the mayor refused, threw him out of the car, and told him to look around. Jinsu concludes the mayor must be at the train station. The man confirms it. He asks if the man was a bodyguard. The man says no, explaining the mayor hired various people for protection. Jinsu grows excited, thinking this might be an important story mission. In front of the station, the man says he cannot see his friends. Jinsu reassures him and introduces himself. The man freezes and points. A small figure stands nearby. It looks like a child. He is about to call out when the protagonist clamps a hand over his mouth. A child would not be alone here. Up close, the chat mutters that the protagonist is the unluckiest person alive. He asks if it is really that dangerous and requests a reward. The big spender donates 100 zen. He remembers that 1 zen equals 10,000 Korean won, which is about $700, and silently thanks the donor. He tells the man to be quiet and that he will handle it because that girl is not human. The girl suddenly turns and runs. The terrified man bolts down the stairs, slips, and falls right in front of a monster. He shouts that there is another one, and it devours him. Chun-Su cannot fathom why he did that. The chat calls the creature a silent girl. He infers from the name that it reacts to sound. A viewer called the new master posts a mission. The protagonist cannot move until the girl passes him, and in return he will gain an ability that makes someone deaf for 1 minute. It is dangerous, but he stays still, sweating, as she passes almost close enough to touch. The mission completes, and the ability applies. He checks the dead man's wallet for a name, but the body begins to rise again. He finishes it for good and runs, hoping the silent girl is not near. He sees another silent girl battering a door. He hears Minchial screaming from inside. He considers leaving, but the new master posts a mission to rescue Minchial and Zhou Yangjin from the bathroom for 20 zen. That is worth it. He ducks into a nearby diner. The chat asks if he is really hungry. He points at the timers he has set and asks if they understand the plan. Inside the bathroom, Minchial and Zhou Yangjin struggle to hold the door. Chun-Su appears. The first timer hits 0 and beeps. The monsters turn. He sprints out and throws another timer down the opposite hall, then another, pulling the creatures away. With the monsters gone, Minchial finally breathes. The chat asks why he did not use the new ability. He explains he must touch the target to make someone deaf, and getting that close would get him cut in half. Zhou Yangjin, who calls himself an army man, reports that his ankle is broken. Chun-Su tells Minchial to help him. The mission completes. Then a groan rises behind them. Zhou Yangjin staggers. Chun-Su realizes Zhou Yangjin is beginning to transform. The leg was never broken. He asks if Zhou Yangjin understands what is happening, remembering another man who turned earlier. Anger flares that they suffered so much for it to end like this. He grabs Minchial and runs. From a distance, he sees Zhou Yangjin and shouts an apology. Minchial asks what is wrong. Chun-Su says it is too late for Zhou Yangjin. They check the platforms but find no helpful notices. A sound echoes, Minchial points, and Chun-Su turns his head. While Zhou Yangjin is off to the side, the train down the line hums to life. It is still running. He looks at Zhou Yangjin and says he will never forget him. He tells himself to finish the game and honor the man. At the station, he warns Minchial to listen if he wants to stay alive. A train will bring things they do not want, so Minchial must stay alert. An announcement says a train is arriving. They spot a wooden crate and hide inside it. The first locomotive roars past, sweeping many creatures along with its wind. A second engine follows. Someone is clearly using the lead train to lure monsters away. He realizes that the second train is the one they need. He slips out of the crate, tells Minchial to stay put, and runs toward the train. Moving carefully, he sees the conductor and a woman officer arguing about the missing mayor. He recognizes the woman from the internet as Jang Seo, once hailed as a symbol of hope. She curses Division 7.5 and wonders if they are lying to her. Her attitude is sharper than in the interview he remembers, but he still needs to board that train. Minchial peeks from the crate, and though the two of them could probably overpower her, it would be better to earn her help. Minchial says it is only one person, so they can handle it. As the protagonist steps up, Jang Seo demands to know who he is. Minchial raises a pipe to strike, and the protagonist tells him to stop. Jang Seo assumes he plans to steal the train because she is alone. He says she is mistaken and flashes a card that identifies him as part of the mayor's security. She doubts anyone like him could be that tough. He says he has important news. The chat mutters that he is about to do something reckless, and he declares that the mayor is dead. Jang Seo frowns. She says they had to come here, drawing a mass of monsters, and now he says this. His voice echoes through the station. He urges her to leave right now, but she insists she was hired to retrieve the mayor. He answers that he is the only one with real information, and will explain once they reach base. After a beat, she agrees and says she will take him to the shelter. He says they must bring his friend too. She eyes Minchial and says he does not look like a city worker. Chun-Su asks if she thinks leaving a student here is acceptable. She relents but confiscates Minchial's pipe. They power up the train and begin to move. Someone stumbles down a staircase. It is Zhou Yangjin, and Chun-Su thanks him, saying they survived because of him. He is shoved aside as several other figures appear. It is the mayor, yelling for the train to stop. Jang Seo steps out to see what the noise is. The mayor reaches toward them, demanding they halt because she came to save him. Jang Seo asks the protagonist what is happening. He points to the platform behind the mayor, where a pack of silent girls is sprinting after them. If they stop, everyone dies. Angry Jang Seo ducks back into the cab. The mayor curses them, then in a strange final breath, says a code is the end. He collapses and the monsters devour him. Shinsu asks the chat if that was not the best outcome, and they agree, saying Jo Yongjin is different now. He waves Minchial aboard. In the cab, Jang Seo demands an explanation and says they will be thrown out if he lies. He brazenly repeats that the mayor is dead. She asks if he takes her for a fool. He admits he never actually met the mayor. She slams him against the wall and tells him to identify himself. He apologizes and gives his name. She asks why he lied and what his plan is. He says he is just a passenger and never claimed to be the person on the card. He only showed it, but she snaps that he deserves to be tossed out. He explains that he found the card on someone who had been left to die, and since the station was swarming with creatures, he used what he had to get them out. She kicks his foot, making him stumble, and warns that he still deceived her. He brings up her interview about people going through hard times and says he is one of them. She asks how he knows her name. Flustered, he says he read a small article. She turns pink, surprised anyone saw it. He calls her a beacon in this new world. Embarrassed, she says the interview did not have many views, and she is not sure whether he supports the police or was just bored. Either way, what is done, and they will have to work together now. He asks if she guarantees they are heading to June. She confirms. He then asks about Division 7.5 and whether she knows anything about them. Jang Seo says that during the apocalypse, they are responsible for. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.